Morning, everybody. We're just waiting for the final few people to join from the waiting room. Just give us 1 second. Okay, I think we're ready to start. It's lovely to see everybody this morning. I will be keeping an eye on the waiting room, so if you lose connection and you need to drop back in again, we'll readmit you. So first of all, a welcome to this morning. I'm Justine Riley. I'm the Director of Sporting Heritage. It's brilliant to be with you all this morning for part of our Art of Sporting Heritage Month. If you've seen some of the activity that's been going on social media or some of the things on the website, it's brilliant to see that focus on where sport and art link, and everybody's input into that is really, really much appreciated. So a few housekeeping things to start off with. If you could keep on audio throughout the session until we come to the Q&A at the end, that would be amazing. Please do feel free to drop anything in the chat. So that could be an introduction about who you are, your organisation, or any questions that you might have for our panel experts today. Use it however you need to, and I'll keep an eye on there as we go through. We have closed captions on, so if you need to use those or want to use those, you can just access those from the 3 buttons on your Zoom chat. And we are recording today's session. You'll have seen that as you join the room. If you would prefer to stay off camera and you don't want to be recorded for when we share the webinar, please feel free to do that as well. That's absolutely fine. Obviously, no problem at all. So before we go into today's session, I'm just going to give a quick introduction about Sporting Heritage, what we do, in case this is the first time that you've come across us or joined any of the sessions. So as you'll know, this is the Art of Sporting Heritage Month. We focus a month each year on a specific theme. We've been looking at art and where those links between art and sport join. And I'll share a link in the chat where you can go and have a look at more information on that, should you want to or get involved in more. We also have the Sporting Heritage Conference coming up in May. Again, I'll drop a link into the chat. You're welcome to go and have a look, see how to book on, find more information about it. Through the website. And then we also have the Sporting Heritage Awards. Nominations for those are currently open. They're across lots of different categories, and they're your opportunity to kind of shout about the work that you do, and allow us to share really widely about why sporting heritage is so important. So yes, that's it from me in terms of the little introduction about sporting heritage. You know that everything that we do is about how we can support the sector and the sector's understanding. So anything that you tell us that you need support on, we try and bring together organisations to be able to support you to do that. And this session is an example of that. We know that digitisation is a clear need for a lot of different organisations across the sector. And we've been working really closely with our amazing sponsors, Microform and The Ark Heritage, to think about how we can do that and support you to learn more about how you can access their support or their knowledge and the things that you need to think about and can do going forward. So this session is really to try and pull all of that together and think about it in terms of where that fits in the Art of Sporting Heritage Month at the same time. So I'm going to, without further ado, hand you over to our first speaker today, from Microform. And then afterwards, we will have the Ark Heritage. And at the end, there will be I hope, some time for questions. But again, do drop them into the chat and I'll keep an eye on those as we go through. So I'm going to hand over to Neil and Dan from Microform, and we're going to cross our fingers that all the tech works.
Hopefully so. Can you hear all right?
Yes, good.
We've got the screen.
And we can see. Oh,
yeah.
Brilliant. Go for it.
Excellent. Okay, so my name's Neil Bowker, and I oversee the sales cycle at Microform. I've been in the industry for 26 years, and all I've ever known is digitisation.
Done. Yeah, so I'm Daniel Smith. I'm the Heritage Sales Executive. I've been with Microform for 6 years, and my background comes from the actual production floor. So extensive knowledge of the handling and the digitisation, calibration of machines.
Excellent. Yeah. So digitisation within sport and art, so kind of preserving history and enhancing access. So this is something that we can talk about a hell of a lot and go on probably for hours and hours. But what we're trying to do is really just kind of bring it into a few PowerPoint slides. And then the idea really is if there's anybody that wants to discuss after this and have something a bit more extensive, then we can arrange and discuss afterwards. Just try and move the slide on. There we go. So Microform. So Microform has been going since 1956. We've been going for just over 68 years, and we are the oldest bureau of our type in the entire country. We started off 1956 as a publishing firm, going around the country, kind of capturing microfilm and sending it around the country and around the world. Publishing microfilm could have been newspapers, could have been any type of heritage. And as time has gone on, we've evolved into digitisation and also publishing. We've got a website called British Online Archives where we publish collections and we sell them to institutions around the world for research. So what we're kind of saying is that, you know, we're able to handle pretty much anything and everything. And we understand the consultation part running right through to the publication, whereas other bureaus are only able to kind of capture and you know, pass the images on. So Microform. So as mentioned, you know, we have decades of expertise inside this building. We have staff that have worked here for 36 years, 25 years, 30 years, you know, and we're kind of, you know, we're a small business. Holds its own inside a small village, and a lot of our staff within the village work for Microform. Their mothers have, their grandparents have, and it's a really good family firm that's kind of evolved over the years into the heritage preservation sector in all different areas. So we have a trusted reputation with pretty much every library, archive, museum across the country, and we've done something in some form, whether it be microfiche, aperture cards, digitisation of white paper, or heritage microfilming, digitisation of fragile material. We assist in digital transformation, and I think this is more apparent after the post-pandemic, because a lot of people just kind of, they either shoved their archive in boxes, in cupboards, in wardrobes, wherever they can, sometimes in garages, in lofts, in attics, and they don't really know what to do with it. So when we talk about transformation, it's about, if you have the want to move into this kind of digital era, but don't really know how to do it, we can assist, consult, and then find the right avenues along the way. And that, you know, when we talk about partnerships, when you start to listen to Tom next from the Ark, that is a partnership that we've formed over the years where we're unable to handle a certain amount of type of material, and we work collectively with the Ark and other partnerships to be able to do that. Customized digitization solutions. So that's really, you know, looking at what you've got and trying to provide you with everything from that consultation, cataloging in some instances, digitization, and then how to edit it and put it online so it can be viewed through a global audience. Long-term preservation and security. So as you can see at the bottom, we've got the accreditations. BS 10008 is probably our most recent and most important. So what it means is anything that we digitize that you put onto a website, it just means it's legally admissible because our processes have been stress tested to ensure that anything that we digitize is done in a legal manner. We invest a lot of money in cutting edge technology. And when Daniel speaks in a few slides time, we could talk about the equipment that we've got. We can handle every eventuality of any type of material that you've got. We recently completed a project for the Royal Geographical Society. So it was the history of the world. We came across everything that you can imagine, where people have hand scribbled a map on it as they're walking around a jungle somewhere in the desert, or, you know, well, not in the desert, there's no jungle, but just to understanding that there's nothing that we can't deal with. And, you know, that 68 years of being a publisher means that whatever we handle, we can take your stories and put them in a manner that when you put them online, the world can see that in the right context. the beauty of power. Okay. So the importance of digitization in sports art. So we find this in every sector that we work in, and everybody has the same problem. So this is not honed into one specific thing. And you people out there that have this issue, you're not alone. But what we're really trying to do, and we run with the same problem ourselves because we're a publisher of our own content, is it's about global accessibility. If you look at teams like, if you look at football, for instance, a team like Luton Town that are very, very small, moving into the Premier League gives them a platform for them to be able to grow their fan base, not just in the United Kingdom, but globally. And to be able to do that, accessibility of archives, of art, of material is a key ingredient in them doing that. So, dipping into the archive and bringing it to life gives that enhanced fan engagement, and it allows them to engage with you instead of being able to fly over here and go and see a physical museum. A lot of the world today is technology driven. 3-year-old children are getting iPads, iPhones. They're online, they're messing around with technology. So as certainly even today, but over the next 10, 20 years, as these children come into their adulthood, they're going to want to engage with something that's digital. And, if you're not at the forefront of that technology and don't start today, you will miss the boat in terms of enhancement and engagement and accessibility. So, working with the Sporting Heritage and working with the Heritage Lottery Funding and the Arts Council to be able to find you the right funding package to be able to do this is something that we're passionate about, and we've worked with over the last 6 to 8 months with Justine and her team. It also allows you to preserve the original works, which is a sustainable practice inside archiving. So, if you've got something that's very precious to you, it's worth a lot of money, it's got a lot of history towards it, you want people to see it and understand it, but you'll be nervous about them touching it and feeling it and being a part of it. So by digitizing something, it allows them the access to look at it or read it, engage with it, share it, tell stories about it, etc. But it allows you to then preserve that original and not dip into it all the time, so that people can obviously ruin it. And then innovative revenue streams. And again, this is where we can assist. We use our publishing platform to monetize the collections that we sell. You have a lot of history, you've got a lot of content, you've got things that people want to see. It can be monetized if it's done in the right way, whether that be through membership or subscription, or if it's artwork that wants to be reproduced and you've got the original artist. People can start to earn money through the digital era of placing art online so that people can access it. So the conversation needs to start now, really, and we need to understand what you've got. And we've had a lot of discussions, especially with the Table Tennis Association. There's a lovely lady there that spent all her life trying to collate as much content as she has, and she's got it all organized. It's inside a container in a storage facility. The Table Tennis Association aren't really engaging with her, but if she can't get that digitally, and and she moves on to something else, or God forbid passes away, that content that she spent all her life collating will disappear. And whether we've seen that in badminton or in the civil services, or whether we've seen it in table tennis, there's so many people out there that have spent their life trying to collate things that if we don't approach the Heritage Lottery Funding and the Art Council and more, we won't be able to do and get it into a position where people can enjoy it just as they have, as they've been collating it. Dan?
Yeah, so it's me. So I'm going to try and consolidate this because there's so much information, as Neil mentioned. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions afterwards. But in an essence, it's about digitization the right way. And that starts for us from the consultation, as Neil says, and that could be from transportation into our dedicated state-of-the-art studio. The safety of the material is of utmost importance to us, and the correct digitization ensures that invaluable historical, cultural, and archive materials are preserved for future generations. It protects materials from physical degradation due to environmental factors, usage, and overall time. And properly digitized material can be accessed by a wider audience, as Neil mentions there, including researchers, students, and the general public. And most importantly, breaking down the barrier for education or inspiration of the future generations. So as you can see on the screen there, color accuracy and quality control is of utmost importance to us, alongside the FADGI, which is the industry standards for your color correction. And as you can see in the bottom of the slide there, we have a color chart where our software will go in, analyze that color charts, give us a delta E reading, which ensures that we're compliant with those guidelines. And that in turn also, if we're encapsulating the art, you know, that's very important to understand the artist's choice of color or the artist's choice of paint or oil. Encompassing all of that within the digital image is very, very important to us. As we said, the safety of the material is very, very important. So we have dedicated machines from V-cradle machines, your planetary scanners. We've even built bespoke machinery just to capture a single item that's measured over 11 meters long. So we do like to say that we have the ability to capture everything in its safety. On top of that as well, we understand the security aspect of when we provide this information back to you. So it's the approach that we'd like to assist people at different stages of their journeys, whether it be if you've got an uncatalogued archive, or if you've begun your digitization. We'd be happy to share our expertise and advice with you and see where we can assist you in any fashion possible. And I think that kind of covers it for myself there, Neil, without going too broad and wasting too much time.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the point at the beginning that we can give you we can surround you with so much information, structure, to be able to do what it is that, to squeeze it into 20 minutes is, as I say, we can go on forever with it. But we do have all the equipment available. And as Dan mentions, when we talk about art and we talk about preserving art, being able to make sure the reds are red and the blues are blues and the purples are purples is very, very important, because you're preserving that through a digital manner. And it needs to be a like for like, especially if you're looking to monetize it and you're looking to go for reprints, etc., through the right channels. How you capture that, whether it's in a FADGI and Metamorphosis compliant manner or not, it just needs to be is important. Okay. You never know whether these are going to move on. There we go. So bringing content to life and what you do with it. Okay, so I worked with Huddersfield Town, and what I started to get them to do is to understand the importance of their archive and what you can do with it. So, what you can see on the top is we started to house programs in a certain era. So, for instance, if Huddersfield were playing a team that they've got history with right back to the 40s, 30s, 50s, we were able to take that program, place it online, do back in the day, we played this team where the score was X, and post that in the morning of the game, dinner time before the game, just before the game, repost it again at halftime, and then on the way home. So, people that have got their heads buried in their phone on that walk to the pub, to the train, to the ground, children that are doing the same with the parents on the way in the car, you're able to start to engage and look at historical facts and bring to life your archive and engage with the youthful audience around that game day and that match day. And it's something that really takes off. And we were getting 12 to 15,000 views, likes, shares, follows. And this is what Huddersfield Town have looked at more and more and more. How they engaged with their audience. And they were in a similar position when they went to the Premier League, that, they needed to engage with that wider global audience and really hone in on how they retain those and get them to keep visiting all the time. The Museum of the World Athletics have created an online virtual museum that you can look at if you go on Vimeo. This is depending on your archive and what you've got and where you are, but being able to create these videos, virtual reality sports museums, it's engaging and it's getting that youthful fan base on board and looking at it in a certain way that is interactive. You've got, and I've listed some there, and again, we can talk about more, but augmented reality, You've got Facebook. Zuckerberg is now trying to create this online presence where you can do educational resource through these goggles that the kids are wearing. Having digital virtual museums or digitizing art or any type of content would be able to bring those stories to life. You've got, interactive exhibition, an augmented reality arena, somebody telling the digital story of that through virtual reality of a sports museum will all go towards educational resources, e-learning modules. And these are the things that when you're going for funding, they really, really like, because, the money they invest will go towards something that is an engagement for the wider audience. Your art could be going online galleries, interactive timelines of maps of the historical events through your archive. And as I say, there's so many things that you can do, especially with the world of AI, that bringing your archive to life is really a thing that will give you great things moving forward, whether that be engagement or monetizing. So as I say, your journey can start today. And if anybody after this just wants a loose conversation about what you've got to see what your ideas are, what you're thinking about, myself or Dan are available to do that. And these are just a few of the things. What we've kind of done over the last 6 months is we have engaged with as many of these companies like yourselves as we can. And we've kind of collated a spreadsheet of information where we can go to the lottery fund and we can go to the Arts Council and beyond, and just kind of say, look, this is the problem. This is consistent. These are the issues. These people need help. We need to get a pot of funding here where people can bring their archive to life and start engaging in that digital manner that everybody else is doing. If you look at the Paralympics, they've done a virtual museum and they get some great engagement with that. So as we say, you're not on your own. Don't feel like you don't know where to go with it. We can assist you, and in the first instance, just have a conversation and go from there. We were at Birchfield Harriers the other day, and they had a silver medal, and it was back from the wartime, wasn't it, where Adolf Hitler wanted to award the medal. The Germans dropped the baton, didn't realize that they wouldn't be disqualified if they picked it up and carried on running with it. They were in first place. They dropped it, stopped running. The Americans came first, the UK came second, and Adolf Hitler walked out in a stomp and refused to give the medal because Germany didn't win. But it's little stories like that, and there's so many that we were told along that day that you will have yourself. It needs to be online, and people need to gain the benefit of it. And it's getting it out of our heads and onto a platform so that you can share those stories in the long term. And I know we've talked not about content, but art is in the same manner. And what Dan was trying to mention was that if you're going to digitize art, you've got to digitize it in the right way to make sure that it is preserved in its digital manner for the longevity of its use. So I think that's it, Dan. I don't know.
Yeah, that's great.
As I said, we could keep going forever. So apologies, Justine.
No, thank you so much, both. Oh my goodness, loads covered in there. I was going to ask you, I know there'll be lots of questions at the end probably as well. But I was going to ask you if there are, maybe one or two top tips about what people could do now if they're thinking, oh, we need to consider how we digitize and we need to think about what we do next. Is there anything that you'd kind of go, you must do this?
Yeah, well, I think understanding what you've got is first and foremost. A lot of people we talk about say we've got a room full of all this, yeah, and it doesn't necessarily mean that all this needs to be digitized. Mm-hmm. You've got to look at the content and look at what you've got, and it's not about what we think is great. It's what people are going to engage with. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of people, why don't we put this because I really like it, or but it's really that point around what will people engage with and why will they get the most out of it.
And as you say, it's about picking out those gems within, it might be a storytelling that you're trying to achieve, but once that happens, a lot of the projects tend to organically grow from there. So a lot of people think we want to do everything. Start small, build the foundations correctly, and everything can be expanded upon time. Nothing will be static. So I think that's probably, as you say there, the most important thing is understanding what you have, what you'd like to promote to the public or to your internal users, and then taking it from there. But that would probably be the fundamental thing. As you say, Justine, there's so many steps along the road at different stages. So yeah, I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah. And one of the last one is, you know, you've got your mobile phone. If you've got some kind of content there, just because it's not been, as Dan's mentioned, been color corrected to metaphors, etc., there's nothing wrong with you taking a picture of something and uploading it and just seeing what happens. Yeah, because that will give you the reassurance that, you know what, I've got some good stuff. And you can start with your phone, and we can discuss all those things afterwards as well with people.
Thank you. Thanks so much, both. And yeah, I'd definitely take them up on the offer of any kind of extra support as well. And then just looking in the chat, so Stuart's got the medal with him. Now, where are you, Stuart?
Oh, there you go, Stuart. I hope I did it justice. I hope I did it justice. Oh, because Stuart does tours for Aston Villa and the Birchfield, so I really hope I told that. Well.
On the spot. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over now to the Ark Heritage, another of our amazing sponsors who deal with some brilliant collections, specifically moving images and looking at digitisation of some of those collections, which again, I know that the sector really are looking for support and how they can move forward with their own collections on that. So I'm going to hand over to Tom and Caroline. And again, any questions that you have as we go, feel free to drop them in the chat, but we will have time, I think, at the end. Tom, Caroline, where are you? There you are.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen now. Hopefully it plays okay. Done some tests this morning.
We can see it.
Can you see it all okay?
We can see it. Yes, there you go.
Perfect, great. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm Tom. I'm joined here with my colleague Caroline, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about what we offer as a company, how we started life as a company, and what support we currently offer to everyone within the sport and heritage sector, as well as some recent art-based sporting projects, one of which we can show you a good example of today. So the Ark started life in the year 2000 as a post-production facility serving the television and broadcast industry. Our main services included quality checks on TV programs, duplication of videotapes, and offering edit space to production companies who were finalising their programs for broadcast. Our offering has evolved over time. Since the industry went file-based, we no longer need to put material onto tapes. But as a result, there's a wide requirement for tape and film digitisation, as well as restoration. Having been established for well over 20 years, we've worked with some big names, including Warner Media, BBC Studios, and All Free Media, including on some titles such as The Great British Bake Off, Silent Witness, and Made in Chelsea. We also have been the BBC's choice restoration facility for well-known series such as Doc Martin, Only Fools and Horses, and Fawlty Towers. In recent years, we decided to enter the heritage sector after identifying that there was a crossover of a lot of the services we offered being required by this industry. I've got a short video to show you, which will go into more detail, and I'm really hoping the playback will be okay because it was a bit juddery, so apologies if so. Okay, yeah. So that gave you a brief overview of the services that we do offer and digitisation and some examples of our restoration, some of which Caroline will go into more detail on shortly. So in terms of sport and heritage and art, we feel the importance of digitising film and tapes lies in safeguarding sort of the cultural and historical heritage for future generations. All the analog sort of tape and film film formats degrade over time. Digitisation ensures the preservation of invaluable footage, documents, recordings that capture pivotal moments in history, art, and entertainment. By converting these materials into digital formats, we not only prevent loss due to deterioration, but also enable easy access, distribution, and archival management to allow us to future-proof the collective memory against the ravages of time and technological obsolescence. As Neil and Dan from Microform mentioned, we do work in a partnership which we hope offers a one-stop shop for archivists to have all equipment and experience pulled into one resource. We've worked together on a number of projects now, and we feel it's worked quite well. And between us, we're always happy to have a chat, as Neil said. Look at what you've got and maybe cover any test material, and just have an initial conversation about what you can achieve with these. One client that we've recently been working with has been AFC Wimbledon Football Club, and we've done some filming for them, which we'll be able to show you shortly. I don't think my sound came through on that video, so I'll have to have a quick look at that to make sure you can hear what John's saying in the film. So in the initial thing, we met with the Wimbledon Sport and Heritage team, which are a charity that is associated with AFC Wimbledon, to discuss potential opportunities to work together, what they want to achieve for the foundation and the football club in terms of short-term and long-term goals. We created a storyboard for 5 short films about the club's history, its USPs and achievements. The Ark then sent down a camera team and a director visited the club for a day of filming. And following the filming, materials were brought into our edit suites. They were cut down to finished programs with sound mixing, graphics, and color grade. I will now share the video with you. I think I've got to cancel my screen share and restart just to make sure that comes up for you. Okay.
I kind of like using non-formulaic approaches to what we do here as the football club. Some of that's born out of having a music and theatre background. Personally, I always like using different mediums and different approaches. We've looked at various different ways, how we design and use light boxes. We've already made 2 films relating to the football club, one of them an animated cartoon, and we staged a play about our most turbulent period in 2002. We had sold out audiences for that. Our newest piece of artwork that we've added to the stadium, which is the Greatest Team. I knew this artist. He's really famous for Formula One, so motor racing artists generally, private commissions with the likes of Lewis Hamilton, etc. I just said, how do you fancy doing an original piece on the football team? What I want is the old Plough Lane dressing room, and as you go across the picture it morphs into the new Plough Lane dressing room. The Greatest Team wasn't person specific, it was meant to be a reflection of the club as a whole. We used the kits from 130 odd years of history. People are all different kits, the 2 Wombles are in there. If you look closely, there's various nods to things in the past, like there's a sports bag with Crazy Gang on the side. But it is really just a reflection of the whole club history, and we do believe it's a great story, so we thought we'd have the Greatest Team as well. We decided to make a cartoon that represents the whole club's history. This cartoonist, who specialises in sports, often has his stuff on display at his local marketplace. He agreed to take it on. We negotiated a non-Premiership club deal on the price. Every time I look at it, I'm still seeing new things because it's not done in any particular formulaic order. It's just a hodgepodge of history and events and sayings. My favourite part of the cartoon, Dicky Guy, and that famous save he made from Hotshot Peter Lorimer at Leeds in 1975. We went to supporters and said, what is the most iconic image between the two grounds? And they said, well, the Womble Till I Die gate. So that was chosen by the fans. The old Plough Lane Stadium had these two blue gates, and after we'd moved out to Selhurst Park, somebody scrawled Womble Till I Die, graffitied those two gates, and it became an iconic image of our struggle, you know, to bring the club back home to Merton, really, and that we wouldn't lay down and we wouldn't die. The first piece we did was the Womble's mosaic. We did a crowdfunding. 5,000 images are on that. Supporters, other clubs, ex-managers, ex-players. You can see all the families and all the people that donated it. And then we went a step further by saying, well, we know where the gates are, and maybe we should bring them back. What we'd forgotten about was that in the interim period, somebody had painted over the graffiti. As historians, we kind of like things as they were. So we painstakingly, with a lot of elbow grease and rubbing and water, removed the paint that was on top of the graffiti. So what you see up there now is the original graffiti, untouched. There was a group of people who wanted to crowdfund for a bench for the Wombles on Wimbledon Common. However, the Common Conservators, in their wisdom or not, decided it wasn't a good idea at all. But I became aware that they'd turned it down, and my first thought was, well, if the Common doesn't want it, I do. I was trying to think that Womble was being reuse, recycle. So first off, I got in touch with the only professional female woodcarver in the country and said, you know, could you do this? And she said yes, and then it was about finding the wood. So it was a 2-ton oak that had fallen. We thought Orinoco was probably one of the most iconic with Uncle Bulgaria, but Orinoco, the Elizabeth Beresford's, that was about her son. So all of the different Wombles are a reflection of the characteristics of her children. And he's still a season ticket holder. So we thought Orinoco's the Womble to go for on the bench. And we had to get special permission because Orinoco always has a red scarf, and we thought he should wear a yellow and blue one. She took a chainsaw to it initially, and then some very fine chisel work. The piece of work she did on the bench was absolutely amazing. She still had half a tree left, and we'd always wanted to do the two winning captains, Roy Law in '63 and Dave Besant in '88, to signify that we are the only club to have won both the amateur and the professional FA Cups. We challenged her again and said, look, we'd really like these two cup winning captains back to back. Can we use the other half of the tree for that? Interestingly, after she'd carved them, we had to transport them down on the back of an open truck. And I think they caused quite a backlog on the M1 coming down from Yorkshire by people slowing down because there was a Womble and a football statue. Obviously, being a natural product, it will require more maintenance. There is some gaps appearing, you know, they're open to the elements. So once a year we get the woodcarver herself. She comes down, she fills any cracks, she pins things, and then she repaints them. And that's our ongoing commitment to using those natural products.
Okay, yeah, so that was just some examples. I hope you could all hear it okay and see it. But yeah, of some work that we are doing with AFC Wimbledon and the filming that we offered them. Alongside that, we're looking at sort of ways that we can bring back the club's history, and in partnership with Microform, who will handle all of the sort of the programs and the stills and things like that. And we will look to digitize all their moving image and just make that available to a wider audience for them. Obviously, a club with a rich history that have gone through the football leagues, and they want to be able to show their fan base around the world, all of the things that they've unearthed and, pieces of history that maybe would have been lost to time otherwise. So I'll pass you over to my colleague Caroline now, who's going to give you a couple of workflow case studies around some some other partners that we've worked with, and things that we were able to offer them, and some collections we were able to save. Caroline.
Thank you ever so much, Tom. Hello, everybody. I'm Caroline. I've been at the Ark for about the last 12 years, and along with Tom, sort of work along on the heritage side. So the first project I'd like to tell you about is for the Farnborough Air Sciences Trust. We've exhibited at the Museum and Heritage Show. I don't know whether any of you have been, but it's a sort of interesting day out if you haven't. Basically, two trustees from FAST came to see us, and they sort of said, oh, you do digitisation, or have you, we've got a lot. Basically then followed up with them after the meeting, and the MD of our company and one of my colleagues went down to Farnborough. So went on site, and they were absolutely amazed about the amount of film cans really, and just, artifacts related to aviation really. There was probably in excess of like 8,000 assets. There were numerous containers. There were literally, as you walk through another door, there'd be another room filled with more film cans. So the next stage for us on that was that once they were happy, that we were an organisation that they'd like to work with, they sent us back with a couple of the film cans, and we completed some test pieces. That means really that we take a sort of short piece and we do a full restoration on that to sort of basically show you the most that can be achieved with your assets. We would maybe do a grade as well. We would, and then it basically enables them to sort of share it with other trustees and people that are interested in aviation history. They then went ahead and applied for Heritage Lottery funding, which they obtained, and they, due to the number of the assets, obviously it was probably impractical with the amount of budget they received to do the whole 8,000. So they came up with a priority order, and this project will be running for approximately the next year with us. What happens is we do a monthly collection from them, and that is at a time of their choice. The FAST is basically mainly run by volunteers. So it's obviously, we're mindful that, in our business, people, it's 9 till 6, often longer hours. However, obviously, as volunteers, we arrange a day at their convenience, really, to go down. Once they come to us, all of them go through a cleaning, preparation, and repair stage. And that's basically because we obviously wouldn't want to put them on our scanner in a, if they had like vinegar syndrome, and a number of problems, if the film needs repairing. So we do all that for them. And then we scan it on the Black Magic scanner. Really, the results we get can vary depending on the age of the film asset and also the way they've been stored. Obviously, film is a little bit sensitive, and sometimes we do get ones that are not such good condition, but basically we've got experienced operators here, and they do what they can. We then, once we've scanned it, we assess the file and we complete basic restoration as required. Really, when sort of discussing this project with them, obviously it would be lovely to be able to restore everything to the give them the highest possible, do a grade on everyone. However, that's just not really financially viable. So we basically make them watchable. We get rid of the flicker, we get rid of dirt, and we get rid of movement, because they tend to be the things that, if you're watching a film and it's jumping around, it's quite, hard to watch it really, and it probably spoils the experience. Obviously, they have found some pieces that really have been of very much historic interest. So they have gone ahead and sort of agreed the additional budget to do a higher level of restoration on those. We also restore sympathetically. We're not trying to make it look, we're not trying to put YouTube filters on it, social media filters. We're aware that you basically still we want it to look old really, and be, the age of the asset. We then complete a YouTube spec file for them, and that goes up. They've set up their own YouTube channel, and it's a really good way of basically getting the footage out there and getting it out there to more people. However, we also do create a HD ProRes file. And this can be used, this is a file format that we're very familiar with in the broadcast world, but also it's very good as an archive file. And if then any of these clips can be sold for maybe part of documentaries, the ProRes would be excellent for that. It's broadcast quality. And obviously, if there's any more restoration needed, we can do that at that point. It's really been an amazing project to work on, and obviously we're still doing it and finding more and more things. The FAST volunteers are very, very passionate about aviation history, and some of the footage has previously been classified and so hasn't previously been shared. So it's been really amazing to work on this project and sort of enable them to get this out there and share it with other enthusiasts. As another part of this, to do with the Heritage Lottery funding, they needed to show a link to the community. So the lady that has helped them with the lottery funding approached the local college, the media department, and basically the 6 media students came in for a tour in January, and they watched the digitisation process that I've just explained, and they filmed this process, and they're currently in the process of making a short documentary about basically the Farnborough Air Sciences Trust, the volunteers, and kind of this project really. So we're really excited to sort of be part of that. And hopefully in the future, maybe on one of these webinars, we'll be able to show you their piece that kind of features the assets and features their sort of day out to come and see us. So one thing I also wanted to say was we're very happy to have people come into the offices. Some of you probably aren't fully aware of the digitisation process. So basically, we would be really happy to show you. We've done a few tours. Microform came to see us when we initially set up the partnership. And I think it really brings to life then. And then also when you're applying for funding, it maybe helps with that side that you've actually seen the process and can describe it better really. Also, we're very happy to do any test pieces for you, that in order maybe to raise finance, you can send it out to your sort of list of interested parties, and then they maybe can it will maybe sort of engage them really. The other case study I wanted to tell you about was the one we completed for Zaha Hadid Foundation, a famous architect, probably most famous for most of us in this country, for the Millennium Dome, or the O2 as we now know it. Again, we met the archivist at the Museum and Heritage Show. She had a budget for this project, but it was relatively limited. And she didn't really have any idea what was on the VHS tapes. So she sent them over and we basically went through. She said to me, we only have this set amount of money. So I, on a weekly basis, updated her. We ran the tapes through. Some of them, obviously, it's a 2-hour VHS tape, but actually only had some short, maybe like a short interview piece, which was maybe like 5 minutes. And others was like whole projects where they'd taken quite a lot of video. So really communication was the key on that project. And I think, the weekly updates really helped her to sort of see where she was. And actually it was brilliant because we got very close to the end of the project, and we end up, we were 5 away, and we just completed those for her. She's hoping with this footage to do an exhibition. They have a building which Zaha did the foundation own, so they're going to use some of this footage in order on like screens really to sort of show people. They also have a lot of students that come in, and again they shared the footage with them. Really, to sort of summarize, really we're an independent company, and that gives us the opportunity to be flexible and provide you with a bespoke service. We're happy if it's your personal cine films or to big, heritage projects, and we can, within reason, work with any budget. We're happy if people give us a detailed spreadsheet or, a box of tapes. We're happy to work with both. We really want to help you preserve your assets. And really, I think the main thing for us is to get this unseen footage out there and to be enjoyed by future generations. And that's probably, yeah, probably it from me. Tom, I don't know whether you've got anything else to cover.
No, not really at all. Obviously, we're more than happy to answer any questions, which I'm sure hopefully any of you might have in the Q&A. But just as Caroline said, and as Neil said, we're all happy to, you know, have a conversation and discuss how you can move forward and, you know, provide any guidance we can. And yeah, please do get in touch if we can help.
Thank you so much, both. That was fascinating to watch and learn more about some of the work that you're doing there. And I think one of the things that everybody, is probably kind of getting now is that the support that you and Microform can provide in terms of just having that initial discussion and thinking, what could we do with this, with our amazing sporting heritage collections? That is crucial. Just being able to access you and go, okay, so I've got this, but I'm not sure what to do with it. And I would, really ask anybody, go and ask, go and find out, you know, even have that first conversation. These guys have been brilliant already, supporting a lot of people in the sector. So I'm going to look, there are some questions. Brian, I know you've put a question in the chat, but you also have your hand up. So if you want to ask it, please come off mute and go for it. Are you there? I'm going to ask it for you, Brian.
Right.
So it was about commenting on how you ensure copyright on material is available for viewing by public. And copyright is a consistent question and probably needs another webinar as well. But it would be brilliant if you've got any advice or guidance.
Tom and Caroline will be able to give their opinion, but certainly from our side of things, obviously it depends on the material that you have, the type of it, and who is in it. You know, things like if somebody's recorded the snooker masters on BBC, you know, many years ago on tape, then you know it's clear that the BBC owns that kind of content. But if you've taken a personal video of yourself with people running around a track, or you know, then there's a different conversation there as to whether you've got ownership of physical material that is 50 years old, 100 years old. But in short, for us, if we can understand the material and what it is, we have a copyright team on our British Online Archive side of the business that can run through and advise the best possible outcome for whatever it is that you've got. I don't know, from your side, Tom, Caroline?
Copyright, it is, you know, it definitely comes up, and often at the Museum and Heritage Show, people talk to us about that. I would fully say that I'm not an expert on it, but I know with the FAST project, the lady that basically organised the Heritage Lottery funding sort of looked into that, and so I potentially could find out more for people, really. You know, I don't want to say anything that I'm not 100% sure on. So obviously we can share our email addresses, and if anybody wants to contact me afterwards, I can then try and basically find out some more information for you. I think is probably the best way from our side. What do you think, Tom?
Obviously, in our television experience as well, we we'll be able to see straight off the bat if something is likely to possibly have any copyright restrictions, and in which case we're always happy to provide some guidance. What we do ask is that if there is anything that is copyright protected, and this is in the interest of any of your content as well, that we are provided the copyright owner's permission to capture it. But yeah, that also covers your stuff to make sure you know, any material that we hold is data protected. We've got various accreditations with bodies to make sure that we adhere by those rules. But as Caroline said, we're more than happy to help you look into ways that you can obtain copyright permission. And yeah, we're always happy to help with that.
Yeah, and just to finish off on Tom's point there, a lot of the big publishers that we work with as well have a very strong takedown policy, whereas their belief is they'd rather have this information available for research purposes. And if someone does put their hands up and say that that is our ownership, they have an immediate takedown policy there. So there's certain areas where there is a little bit of leniency, as you say, but ensuring that that copyright ownership has been reviewed in its entirety is fundamental to the steps going forward.
Thanks all. I think, there's definitely a need for a specific copyright webinar at some point in the near future as well. But yeah, brilliant. Thank you. I've got another question in here. So have you got any comments on digitizing 3D artifacts like old sports equipment, clothing, furniture?
Yes. So we have the equipment and the ability to capture physical items in a 3D view. We have a viewer online, a platform where we can load all the items into it. And if you wanted to, for instance, do something on a racket and put it on Twitter, we create a social media link, so you can copy the link, put it into your social platform, and that takes it from our platform in the cloud. We're working with the Ark, and as Tom will mention, or Caroline in a second, that the virtual museum side. So to be able to digitize that art, capture these physical items like sports equipment, clothing, furniture, but then work with the Ark to put it in a virtual environment. I think you can talk a bit more about that, Tom, Caroline.
Yeah, so we've recently launched a prototype where we've visited a museum, and we took a 360 camera and we went around and completely filmed the museum. And what this will allow them to do is to allow virtual visits from around the world. Obviously, in this day and age, obviously it's tricky for people to be able to, well, certainly during the COVID period anyway, tricky for people to be able to get to certain places, and that really created an interest for it. And as part of that, people can click on certain exhibits, and we don't have the 3D scanning capabilities, Microform have those. And in conjunction, we're able to provide a complete visit where somebody can click on an item, circle around the item, have a look at it, but also walk around the museum at the same time. And it's relatively cheap to put together, a lot cheaper than it sounds. So yeah, we'll be happy to provide you with some more guidance on that if they need it.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm going to be coming and asking you more about that as well. Do we have any more questions? Feel free to drop anything in the chat. Any hands up? If you're not sure how to use that,
I think we've bored everybody today.
I suddenly thought I should have said how you use the hand function if you want to do that. But
I think I can see Roger's got his hand up.
Yeah, go for it, Roger.
Hi. What do copyright owners charge? You know, you talk about getting permission for these things, and I wonder about the value for money in obtaining some of these permissions. From my experience, some of the charges levied on quite small projects are absolutely prohibitive. So I'd be interested to know, particularly from Neil, how you negotiate around the kind of value for money proposition for using copyright material.
Yeah, and I think it's how we pitch it to the people, what we're going to use it for, and how we're going to, you know, if we're going to monetize through their, you know, through the use of their art or their physical item, etc., then naturally they're going to want to they want to get some recompense for that, for using it. Now, you know, with every business model, when you create a subscription or monetized access to something, you're going to look at your revenue stream over a month or year or whatever, the capture audience, etc., and that can give you the you know, the kind of percentage. We have to do it ourselves. What the model that we use for British Online Archives is we go into an archive and we digitize that free of charge. What we do is we give them a digital image so that they can use it to their own advantage. But we also, when we sell it to the universities, they get a royalty payment off anything that we do. So if you're just going to put something online and give access to it free so that people can use it educationally, etc., etc., when you pitch that to the person who owns it, you know, they then have that opportunity to say, well, do you know what, that's not, we don't want to allow that, so therefore you can't use it. But then if you're going to monetize it and you explain to them, well, for every one that we sell, you're going to get £1 or £10 or whatever, then again they've got the opportunity there to kind of like it or refuse access to it. So again, it depends on what you're going to do with it. You know, if you've got family that have historical, you know, their granddad or their grandmother's done something special, and you want to put that online so that the world can access it and enjoy it, if you're not making money out of it, I wouldn't think that they would deny access to it. As soon as you start talking to the BBC and the ITV and all the rest of it, as Tom and Caroline will probably tell, they then want to, that's when they say, well, we want the money out of it. And so again, it comes down to the situation and what you're going to do with it and how you portray to the people who own it, as to whether they'll allow you access to it or not. I don't know if that helps.
You're quite right, Neil. I mean, in our experience as well, it is definitely what you're going to do with it and what your plans are. Rightfully, if you're going to make a documentary with your material and you're going to, pitch it to BBC, to Netflix, and worldwide distribution, the content owners are going to want to be rightfully compensated for that. We recently had a discussion with Glasnevin Cemetery over in Ireland, very historic, as I'm sure many of you know, with a lot of historical figures there. And they were looking at an exhibition where they wanted to do an augmented reality feature. And they wanted, as part of that, some visual content of some of the historical figures from their cemetery. We had a chat with the Associated Press, who basically said, look, we would be willing to offer these things, which would usually be quite pricey if you're going to take them for televisual formats. But the fact that they were going to be used for educational or for minimal monetizing, they were prepared to offer that at a far cheaper rate than they would if you were to use that for broadcast. So there's no set price. It really is down to what the purpose is.
Thanks both. Caroline, did you want to add anything else? Or
no, I think probably covered.
Okay. Yeah, thanks both. Okay, another question. So to clarify, what would you recommend are the first steps when approaching digitisation and restoration, and any points around funding? I'm going to quickly answer a bit about the funding. So we run community grants, and there's potential that we could support some of the activity within that. And our last National Sport and Heritage Day grants were run with Microform, with some brilliant support and funding, which has led us to be able to understand a lot more about what your needs are. And then there are also organisations like National Lottery Heritage Fund, potentially organisations like Arts Council. And we ran a funding webinar a couple of weeks ago as part of the Art of Sport and Heritage, where there was some more advice and guidance. That's on our YouTube channel, so please go and have a look at that. But specific answers to that question, I'm going to come over to Neil and Tom and Caroline.
One done.
Yeah, so I think in terms of, thank you for leading that, Justine. I think for us personally would be the consultation, to come in and understand the content, the material types, get an understanding of the personality, and from there we can assist with, as Justine says, putting that information together, putting that documentation to support your applications for the funding. So from my personal perspective, it would be about the understanding and the consultation of the archive as the starting point, and everything from there it kind of follows suit. So I'm not sure if Tom or Caroline wants to
yeah, so I think from our point of view, it's probably the test pieces. I just really feel that once, for example, we've been dealing with the Royal Engineers Museum recently, they're in Kent, and we did some test pieces, and basically dealing with one of the gentlemen that worked there. And I think initially, he was very passionate about the project, but the sort of powers that be above him didn't have a great deal of interest, if he was kind of honest to me about that. But once we completed the test pieces, and he showed these, and it was sort of an interview with about a particular sort of battle to some extent. And do you know what? They absolutely loved it, and it's been amazing how the project has been able to move on. So I kind of think sometimes just start, like how it would be lovely that everybody had a massive pot of money and they could, we could work it out all really nicely, and we could go, we're going to do this first and that, and that first. So for sort of, I think get some test pieces done, speak to Neil and Dan, and, kind of just get started really, even if it's very small, because I think it kind of snowballs. For example, with the Royal Engineers, we're actually going to do they've got lots of film assets. They kind of always know they're going to have a limited budget. So we're going to do a training day for them. So they had some, like an old winding bench that they were given from the Imperial War Museum. And they've applied for some kind of local Kent funding really, and they've now got the money in order that we can go down for the day. We're going to show their volunteers and a couple of members of staff how to clean basically clean their films. And that means then that they can, you know, really kind of save money, because then they would come to us in a better state, and it would obviously, we could do them a better rate than on the actual scanning. Obviously we have talked to them that, you know, a day course isn't going to give them make them operators of, you know, 20, 25 years that we've got here, but it's definitely you know, a start to the project. So yeah, my advice would be to sort of have a chat to us and kind of, you know, and Microform and you know, start small, but it kind of snowballs. Tom, have you got anything do you want to say?
Yeah, just following on from what you said, Caroline, there, I mean, we come across people who've got, you know, mountains and mountains of content, and they don't know what they've got, and it's just a case of sitting down and going through everything. And once they do go through everything, they find that maybe a lot of the stuff they've got is duplicates, some of the stuff is too far gone to be digitized, some of the stuff is, you know, blank or completely worthless. So first of all, I'd say document what you have, prioritize what you have, so that you can then work out and say, okay, if I have a limited budget, this and this is, you know, what I really want to get done. You know, we're more than happy to have a look for you and give you a free assessment. We appreciate that, especially when it comes to maybe videotape and film. It's not always easy to see exactly what's on that. You know, some of the stuff is very old and might not have been labeled well at the time. In regards to restoration, it's really work out what your expectations are surrounding restoration. You know, are you looking for basic improvements, or do you want a full restoration on a certain piece? Are you going to use that in an exhibition in a museum, and do you want it to look absolutely perfect? Or is it going to be for social media channels and you just want to clean it up a little bit? So yeah, what are you using the content for? Also, what is the urgency? We're more than happy to look at a project that's going to run for a couple of years and work out, you know, a much, you know, more reduced rate than if you said, I need all of this done for an exhibition that's starting in 3 months' time. And on the back of that, we're more than happy to work with you on costs and provide you a guide of, you know, selection of rates to say, you know, here it is if we're going to restore it to a full level and you need it done very quickly, or, you know, here's your cost if you just want a basic cleanup and we've got plenty of time to work on it. Yeah.
Thanks all. I think that's yeah, brilliant, a brilliant bit of advice in terms of how you need to think about the project. But I mean, Caroline, yeah, across all of the sporting heritage kind of projects, that's so important, because sometimes it's overwhelming the amount of information that there is, or the amount of stuff. And if we can start at a smaller stage, it gives you that ability to demonstrate and evidence why it's important, and you feel like you've started to make that kind of process. And I think you mentioned it as well, Neil, and then it can snowball and things can start to progress from there. But it's crucial to just start somewhere, and then the costs are smaller as well. I hope that answered some of those questions there. And there's another one in the chat. So someone mentioned earlier AI, and could you share regarding the possible future importance of AI in the sector? Oh wow, go on.
Well,
Who wants to start that?
The wonderful world of AI.
Anything that's so we've started. We've been working on AI in collaboration with the Sheffield Hallam University for about 4 years, on the British Online Archive side of things, and we started off with World War II war diaries. So trying to understand the feeling you get when, you know, if we're doing a diary of somebody at war, and the bombs are raining in on you, you're going to write in a certain way, and a feeling that, you know, in panic, I've got to, you know, or if you lay down on the evening in your bunker and you're writing a love letter to a loved one, the you know, AI is able to understand the feeling between one and the other and start to explain what they were going through and where they're gone, etc., etc. And where we've evolved with that in the heritage side with myself and Dan is, we've taken something that's completely uncatalogued. So somebody's gone unstructured. We've got a room full of, we don't know what it is. And what we've done is digitized a short amount of it. We've thrown it into something similar to what you would know as ChatGPT, but it's contained within just that archive rather than the whole internet. And you can ask it to summarize. So you just say, summarize the content that you've got in there and let me know what that is. So it'll look at this unstructured information and it'll come back and say, this is information relating to this date, this is what it is, this it is. And it, you know, the stuff that we've tested it on starts to pull out things that you wouldn't even believe are in there. And you can start to then say, well, can you elaborate a little bit on this bit that you said? And it leads down a different way. And even if you're doing a presentation about something, or you're writing a book, or you're doing a blog or a white paper or anything, or the power of AI and what it can bring out of an archive once we've applied handwritten recognition to it and standard OCR towards it is incredible. You know, we have a small sample worth of it, and if you have any unstructured, or you have some structured, and you want us to take a sample of that and put it in and show you exactly how we are seeing it work, we're more than happy to do that. But
yeah, and I think from the researcher's perspective, as Neil mentioned there, for an archive that is completely unstructured, there might be two documents that relate to each other that are, you know, completely different ends of the building. And once we've got it through the model, it's able to pull that information relating from another document. So from a researcher's perspective, you're reducing your time there considerably. And just lastly, to touch on the handwriting recognition, I think, you know, this time last year, we were looking at about 70-80% accuracy on that. Now, all of those models and the algorithms can be trained, as you say, depending on the styles, the ink types. So that is, it's incredible, the advancement that's had in such a short space of time. And over the next couple of years, that's obviously going to just advance even more so. So I think encompassing that within projects, I think, and not ignoring it is very important about with the future. So as we say, it's something. One particular story I remember is a chap that wrote a dissertation on handwriting recognition. It took him 3 years to complete. We didn't have the heart to tell him that we'd released this new product and it could do what he'd done over the last 3 years. So, you know, there's the complete different ends of the spectrum there. But for us, it's very much in part of our journey moving forward.
Yeah, and we're hoping to. So if you take the online Huddersfield Town platform, we're hoping to implement that into that system and other systems over time. So anybody anywhere in the world can access the platform and start to ask it its own questions and really, you know, get into the nuts and bolts of an archive. You know, it's all right to accession it and kind of say, well, this is the picture, this is what we think it is, this is where it is. But to, you know, you've got a page. I think we're doing something at the moment. It's 868,000 words. It would take you forever to be able to understand what is in that content. So to just ask the question of AI and get a summary within seconds, it will take you to places that you'd never dreamed of in terms of what you've not been able to do from a historical research point of view previously. Yes. Yeah, we love it. It's really passionate about it. Again, we could talk forever about stuff, but
that's the next webinar. There we go.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, keep them coming. So,
yeah, I mean, it feels like there is a lot of potential opportunity that we aren't actually looking at the moment. So I do think that that's a discussion that we probably need to have as well.
Yeah, we are history specialists, and our job is to bring a history to life, whether it be audio, visual, or you know, physical content. You know what I mean? And to be able to have these things in place now, where we can think of the unthinkable and be able to do things that we've never been able to do before. It's history is amazing, and we're lucky in the United Kingdom that we've got a hell of a lot of it. You know, so yes, yeah, one for another day, I think.
Thank you. Tom, Caroline, anything to
add? I mean, we still have our broadcast post-production arm, and that uses AI quite a lot now. In the broadcast industry, it's developing very rapidly. Things that you wouldn't have been able to pick up before in a film or in a program, you know, you now run it through an automated software which will tell you all sorts of things that's wrong with it, which creates both a headache and additional revenue stream. So, you know, it's very much a love-hate relationship. In terms of our heritage sector work, it's still very much manual based. You know, digitisation, film scanning, that relies on the experience of the operators that we've got, who've, especially because you are working with archive material, you know, and they've been working with it for, you know, 30, 40 years, things like that. That being said, in our restoration areas, it is a lot AI based. What, especially for the more maybe budget projects that we do have. So you might have a series of clips, and they'll be full of things like dirt, grain, sparkle, things like that. We'll be able to look at those and apply filters, and AI will go through and remove what it thinks is dirt and sparkle, and sort of degrain the image and sharpen it. you do need then to go through it manually to make sure it hasn't removed anything that's important. For instance, one of the clips we showed you in the video is Mantovani's orchestra, and the AI software would constantly remove Mantovani's baton, thinking it was a defect. So we then have to go through and manually stop on each of those frames, it removing that problem. So it's not perfect, but it's getting there. But you know, as it stands now, it already saves us a lot of time and is able for us to offer a much cheaper restoration option for a lot of people. In terms of the future, the one that I can really see coming forward is colorization. We'll get a lot of content. We can colorize picture that's black and white to, you know, full color. It does take a lot of time and it's very costly. I would imagine that in the next few, there are some very basic colorization options out there already. We don't feel that they're quite there yet. And we feel with the next few years that would be the next thing. You know, people to really colorize their film for you know, without having to spend too much and get it looking like it was originally.
Thanks so much, Tom. Caroline, just want to check there's nothing else to add.
Oh yeah, no, I think Tom covered it from our side. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you for some brilliant answers there on AI, and I definitely think that that's something we need to be looking at going forward, even more than we are thinking about now. Any more questions? This is your last warning for questions. I'm just going to scroll through, make sure it's not got their hands up. No? Okay, I'm going to ask the three panelists if there's anything else that they want to add before we finish this webinar. You don't have to.
Yeah.
I think what Caroline mentioned earlier is, you know, sometimes we're talking about the grand aspects, but if it is something that you can do internally, we're happy to come in and give you that skill set to do it yourselves as well. And it doesn't have to be, you know, to that nth degree. If it's something that you haven't got the resources all the time and that's not feasible for the future, then we do offer the option of coming in and training you and showing you our working processes, the handling techniques, you know, so we can kind of give you a package where you're self-sustainable moving forward. And if you have any volunteers with that as well, to give them, you know, a little bit of skills and knowledge moving forward with that. I think that would be my only comment from this.
Yeah, that's it. Just start. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to engage and have conversation. We are, as Tom and Caroline are, we're available just to have that chat, you know. So if anybody wants to discuss after this, then please obviously get in touch and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're sharing a stand with Microform at the Museum and Heritage Show, which is, I think, the 15th and 16th of May in Olympia. So I don't know whether any of you can get to London, but, you know, obviously, you know, come and if you do get there, come and see us on the stand. And obviously, we can have a chat in person, which is always great as well. So, and as I mentioned earlier, you know, if anybody wants to come and do a tour of our offices, see the sort of digitisation process, and yeah, have a chat, then obviously we can do some test pieces. So yeah, feel free to get into contact, really. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I'm going to also ask if you could both share your slides with me, if you're happy to, and then we will send those out to all of the delegates, make sure that you've got all the information. We'll also share a recording on the YouTube channel, so you'll be able to access anything else afterwards if there's something that didn't quite make sense, or you want to go back and have a look at, or you want to share with anybody else that's within your organisations. You'll be able to have access to that. That will come out as soon as possible, but hopefully within the next week. So all it's left to me is to thank our panelists. It's been really informative. I've enjoyed learning more about the work that you do and how that can support the sector. And thank you to all of the delegates as well for joining us today. Reminder again, share anything that you have around art and sport through our various different social medias. There's links that are in the chat. And thank you for your time today, and see you all soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.